Greetings and welcome to the Cancer Interviews podcast. I'm your host, Bruce Morton. Each person forced to go through a cancer journey has their own way of reacting to it. Our guest on this episode not only survived breast cancer, but she chose to be proactive in the fight against it. She is Allison Hancock of Tigard, Oregon. She's the executive director of the Breast Friends Cancer Support Network, and she's here to tell her story. Allison, welcome to Cancer Interviews.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show.
Well, we always like to start from the same place, Allison, and that is to find out a little bit more about you, exclusive of your involvement with cancer. So if you would, tell us a bit about where you're from. We already know what you do for work, and we're going to hear more about that, but where you're from, and when time allows for fun, what you like to do for fun.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. I am married. I've been married to my husband, Mark, for 28 years. And as Bruce said, we currently reside in Tigard, Oregon. I am originally from the South. I grew up in Texas, moved to Connecticut in 1999, and both of my boys were born there. I have two boys, Josh, who is a senior at Oregon State University, and Jeremy is a sophomore at Oregon State University. And in my free time, what I enjoy doing, I enjoy hiking. I enjoy exploring the beautiful coast here in the Pacific Northwest. I also enjoy gardening and photography and crafting.
Well, in Oregon, you're in a great place to do all of that. Now, I want to ask about your life prior to your diagnosis. Could you say that prior to your diagnosis, you were in good health?
Yes, I was. Prior to my diagnosis, I was enjoying life. I had my boys were 3 and 4 years old at the time. I was, being a mom, taking them to play groups, getting them involved in preschool. And then my life changed in a blink of an eye. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2004, and it came really out of the blue. I had gone in for my yearly exam, and the doctor had felt something on my breast, and she recommended me to go get a mammogram and an ultrasound, which I did. And I went to the mammogram. It didn't show anything, so they recommended doing the ultrasound, and still they couldn't pick up anything. And at that time, the doctor said, well, since it's not showing anything there, let's wait and see if it could be hormonal. I was 40 years old at the time, and so I waited 3 months. It was still there, so we decided to have a biopsy. They went in and took out the tumor. And when they took out the tumor, they ended up going through the pathology report, and it ended up being cancerous. So at 40 years old in 2004, I was diagnosed with invasive breast cancer. It was stage 2B, and my life was forever changed that day.
Allison, it's not a question of whether it's a good day. It's obviously a bad day when you or myself or anybody is diagnosed with cancer. But I am guessing that multiple thoughts went through your head when you first got that news regarding the present and the future. What are the things that went through your mind once you got that very bad news?
Some of the things that went through my mind is, will I be here for my boys? They were 3 and 4 at the time. They were toddlers. They were, getting ready to go to preschool. And the thought occurred to me, will I be here? Will I be here to see them graduate high school, graduate college, be involved in their everyday life? What will my husband do if my treatment doesn't work? He'll be a single dad, and he'll have to juggle a job and take care of the boys. Will the treatment work? Did they catch it in time? Just all these thoughts that go through your head, lots of fear, lots of anxiety. And, you're really putting your trust in your doctors and your medical team to give you the best care possible.
And in terms of support, how was Mark?
Oh, Mark was wonderful. He was my rock. He was there for me. And one of the things that he did that made it very special for me, I collect angels. They're the willow tree angels. And after each treatment, I had 8 rounds of chemo. I had 4 rounds of idraromycin, Cytoxan, and then 4 rounds of Taxol. And after each round, he would give me a angel to give me hope, and it signified one step closer to the end of treatment. And so it was very special for me to be able to have his support. He was there with me. He took me to every chemo treatment, was there for the boys. You know, he was just a great support. I couldn't do it without him.
By the way, if you like what you hear on this segment, we invite you to subscribe to our podcast by clicking the links below. Once there, you will see a bell icon, and if you click on that, we will notify you when we post a new interview. Allison, with respect to treatment, sometimes breast cancer patients have options in terms of their treatment. Sometimes they don't. Did you have options?
I didn't. Did I have options? I guess I did have options. I did have the option of doing a lumpectomy or a mastectomy. Based on my particular diagnosis, I chose a lumpectomy. Went in and had a lumpectomy with chemo and radiation. And so I do not have the experience of going through a mastectomy where, you know, they take the breast and you no longer have a piece of your body. So for me, I was able to, my treatment was very successful with a lumpectomy.
And are you glad you went, in retrospect, are you glad you went that route?
Yes, yes, I do. Yeah, I'm very happy with my surgeon who I had and all of my treatments. I had great care and a great support network.
Chemo, what was the toughest part of it for you?
The toughest part of chemo for me was just the energy. You know, having toddlers at home, having to be there with them, you know, they're very active. And for me, having to slow down and know that I couldn't keep up with them. And, you know, being 3 and 4 at the time, they really didn't understand what I was going through. They knew that I was losing my hair, that I didn't have enough energy to do the things that I had prior been able to do. But for me, I think it's just the energy, the tiredness, losing your hair. You know, I was raised in Texas. I had big Texas hair. And the biggest part for me was losing my hair. I felt like I lost a piece of my identity.
I'm going to invoke a name that you obviously know, and some of the people who have seen some of our viewers know this name, but a key person with the establishment of the Breast Friends Cancer Support Network is Becky Olson. And when we interviewed Becky and the subject of hair loss came up, she brought out a story of how she addressed it with a certain degree of sense of humor. Is that possible, or is it just so traumatic that there's nothing funny about it?
For me, it was traumatic when it happened. My diagnosis happened in November of 2004. I had treatment, you know, during Christmas. And for me, my mom had passed away a year prior to my diagnosis. And so my dad was with us visiting. And I remember sitting in my bedroom on Christmas Day and my hair was falling out. And I wanted to be there for the pictures to make sure that everything looked, you know, pristine on Christmas Day. And then I just decided to shave off my head on Christmas Eve or Christmas evening, just because it was traumatic, you know, just feeling the clumps of hair coming out. There wasn't anything funny or humorous at the time, but looking back, I, you know, exhibited, you know, a different side of myself. I wasn't really a hat person, but I became a hat person, and my friends, you know, brought me some really cute hats, and so I could wear those.
Well, your hair looks great now. Are you still a hat person?
No, I'm not.
Now let's talk about other phases of chemotherapy. I've been told by people who have gone through it that food tastes terrible because it tastes like metal or something like that. But in terms of your appetite and in terms of what eating was like, what was that like?
For me, usually I hear women gain weight during chemotherapy because of all the drugs. But for me, I actually lost weight. And I don't think that was because of my eating. I still enjoyed eating. I craved salty foods more than I did anything else. But you definitely have that metal taste, especially after, the first few days of chemo. It wears off, but after the first few days of going through chemotherapy, really nothing really tastes good. But for me, those salty foods, tasted the best.
You mentioned the angels and the 8 treatments. So there must have been a day when you had accumulated an 8th angel. And I'm guessing at that point, you might have felt like you were getting the upper hand on cancer. What was that like?
For me, it signified that it was the end of, putting my body through so much pain. With the chemotherapy, you lose, all of your hair, your nails start deteriorating, and you just don't feel like yourself anymore. And so being able to check off that I made it through 8 rounds of chemo, just was a really enjoyment day. You ring the bell and it signifies the end of a long treatment.
Another aspect of chemo, and everybody I've spoken to who has undergone chemo says pretty much the same thing, and that is about Chemo Brain and your ability to remember things and process things. Did that become a factor for you?
It did. I would be having a conversation and I would try to get out a word and I couldn't remember what that word was. And then that person who I would be talking to, noticed that I was, acting different and strange. And I said, oh, it's the side effects of chemo. Eventually that wears off and you're able to, retain your knowledge again. But also as you get older, you sort of start losing your memory or your words. So it's just interesting to be put in that situation.
I have also heard from people who have undergone chemotherapy that as grueling as the routine was, once it's behind them, everyone I've asked this question of, and you might be in their category, perhaps not, but they've all said in retrospect, they're glad that they underwent chemo as a way of getting the upper hand on cancer. Would you agree?
Yes. I put my faith and trust in my medical team to give me the best care. And if chemotherapy was going to eradicate the cancer, take care of any lingering cancer cells after my tumor was removed, I was all for that.
I want to move on to another phase and at the same time trot out another name that you know well, but a woman who is part of the Breast Friends family and a friend of Cancer Interviews is Michelle Beck. And on one of her podcasts, she talked about a phase of the cancer journey that perhaps doesn't get talked about enough. But Michelle said that the whole notion of survivorship brings with it its own set of challenges. Would you agree?
Yes. Excuse me, I have a tickle in my throat. Yes, once you're done with treatment, everyone thinks that everything's going to be back to normal. But that's not the case, because after you go through your regimen of chemotherapy and radiation, depending on what type of cancer you had, mine was hormone positive, I had to be on a aromatase inhibitor, which takes care of any lingering cells. And so with that AI that I was on, being 40 years old, I felt like I was 80. There were a lot of joint pain, a lot of muscle pain, but I knew that in order for me to kick cancer, I needed to be on this drug. And so you may be looking great on the outside, but on the inside, your body is still struggling to repair itself and to get back to a normal state.
How tough was that?
That was really tough. Again, with my boys being so young, I was pretty active prior to cancer. And so being on those drugs, I just had to take more time. I couldn't hike up, I couldn't go on a 5-mile hike like I did previously. I had to work up to that. And eventually, your body gets back into that shape, and your muscles start working again, and your joints feel a lot better.
Allison, there was a point in which you had zero involvement with the Breast Friends Cancer Support Network. Now you're the executive director. If you would, take us through the chain of events that led you from point A to point B.
Yes, my diagnosis, as I had mentioned, I was diagnosed in 2004, and I was living in Connecticut at the time. And when you're going through that diagnosis, you don't know, what's going to happen. And then fast forward to 2012, my husband accepted a job here in Oregon, and the boys were in middle school. And so I had the opportunity to volunteer. I wanted to get out. I wanted to start meeting people, be new to the area. And so I stopped into the Breast Friends office. It's 5 minutes from my house. And I met Sharon Hennigan, who has been a guest on your show. And I sat down, met with her, and she wrapped me in a big hug. And I said, I'd love to volunteer at Breast Friends. What do you have available? And at that time, they did not have a volunteer coordinator. And so I started volunteering as the volunteer coordinator. And through a series of different events that happened, I became the event coordinator. And then Becky and Sharon were at that stage in their life where they wanted to retire. And so they were looking at someone who could take over for them and continue to build on that legacy that was built. And so they had asked me if I was interested. I said yes. And in 2018, I became the executive director of Breast Friends.
And what are those responsibilities like? How tough can they be?
They were really tough in the beginning, just getting your feet wet and settled in getting sponsorships. Being a nonprofit, all of the funding that we receive, comes from sponsorships, donors, and the community. So it's building those community relationships. It's being able to share with the community about the resources that we provide to women who've been impacted with breast cancer, and also leading a team. I'm a full-time employee at Breast Friends, and we have 4 other employees who are all part-time. And so it really takes a team to work together and to build up our programs and the support.
There are going to be some people listening and watching who prior to this interview had never heard of Breast Friends. So if you would, tell us about some of the things that Breast Friends can do for those who become involved with it.
When Breast Friends was started, it was co-founded by Becky and Sharon Hennigan, and we're in our 22nd year. And during that time in 2000, there wasn't a lot of support for women who are going through breast cancer. And so with their own experience of being diagnosed, they saw that there was a void. There wasn't a emotional support for women. And so they set out to create this amazing organization to offer support, services and programs to women who are navigating their breast cancer journey. And currently, our programs have expanded and grown. We have a variety of different programs to be able to get that support through our support groups, through our breast cancer support network radio podcast that's available on all your favorite podcast channels. There's over 300 episodes that people can go and listen to, and a variety of topics, which not only help the cancer patient, but can help her family and friends to how to be a better support care person for that individual. We have workshops. Because of COVID, we really branched out and did a lot of Zoom meetings. And so that opened up a huge opportunity to support women, not only in the Portland metro area, but also all across the United States.
She is Allison Hancock of Tigard, Oregon, and she's the executive director of the Breast Friends Cancer Support Network. And Allison, for those who are not in Metro Portland, because that's where you are, some of the things on the website, you've gone into that in some detail, but if you would enumerate some of the other things that people who go to your website can gain from going to it. And before we go any farther, if you would give us your web address.
If you go to Breast Friends, www.breastfriends.org, you can reach our website. And on the website, there's a variety of different ways that you can connect. As I had mentioned, we do have Zoom workshops that are still going on. And so those are really important to be able to give you the opportunity to connect with other women who have walked in those shoes of going through a cancer diagnosis. And we also have our Breast Friends podcast. And we also have some tools, tips and tools. There's some brochures that are really helpful on giving them to family and friends on how to be a better caregiver, how to help you through your journey. There's one brochure on when mom has cancer, and it talks about, talking to your children about your diagnosis and letting them know that it's not their fault, that you're there, and that you will, get better through the treatments. And we also have resources. We have a mentorship program. So if you are in an area that you don't have support, please feel free to reach out to us through our website, and you can connect to another woman who's gone through that cancer journey, and we can answer questions. We can be a friend to you during your time.
Allison, you were not there when the idea for Breast Friends was hatched, but I think you probably have an idea of the scope of the services that were offered at that time. And obviously, because you're the one in charge, you know what the scope is now, and it's much bigger than it was when Breast Friends was first established. So my next question to you is, I suspect there is vision for further growth at Breast Friends, some things that you're not doing now, but you hope you can be doing in the years to come. What things might fall in that category?
Yes, a couple of things that are, on our top of mind for strategic planning as the board and I are looking at growing. One of them is to be visible, be out there in the community, and to give resources to not only the woman going through cancer, but also her partner, her family members, her coworkers, and also being able to train others to be a mentor, how you can be a friend to another person who has gone through cancer, and to support and encourage them. And also how to talk to not only your friends and family, but also to your coworkers and to your employees and employers on what it's like going through cancer, and give them some tools and training on how to be a better employer to their employee.
Allison, we're going to wrap up now, and I want to take the scope of this question and broaden it. Let's imagine that you have encountered somebody who is on a cancer journey, any cancer journey, breast cancer, kidney cancer, brain cancer, et cetera, et cetera. And here you are, you're in charge of a support group. By way of extolling the virtues of involvement with a support group, what would you tell that person who's been freshly diagnosed?
I would say for what we do at Breast Friends, when we talk to another woman who calls us and says that they had been recently diagnosed, we, really encourage them to get involved in a support group. Breast Friends' mission is to ensure that no woman goes through cancer alone. And that peer-to-peer support is so important, to be able to talk to another person. Your friends and family are great. They're able to support you and to give you support with meals, with childcare. But there's just something about being able to talk to another person who has actually gone through treatment, to understand what it's like going through it, the effects of chemotherapy, the effects of how to manage your anxiety and stress, how to how to navigate this cancer process, and being able to share with another one in a safe place, to let them know that they aren't alone, that they will get the encouragement and hope, and just to be able to be there and to give them support. It's so important to reach out to someone else. And people can find, if you're not in the Portland metro area and you don't have a Breast Friends in your area, or a Breast Friends type of organization, ask your medical provider, ask your nurse navigator on local resources that can help you connect to another support group. It's just really important to build that community, to let them know that they have a safe place to come to and talk.
Allison Hancock, thank you very much. We really appreciate your sage advice, your inspiring story. And just one more time, if you would share with us the web address for Breast Friends.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce, for having me. And you can reach out to Breast Friends at www.breastfriends.org. And we would love to connect with you and help you along on your journey.
All right, Allison, thanks so much. We really appreciate your time and your story. Thanks for being with us on Cancer Interviews.
Thank you, Bruce.
And that's going to wrap up this episode of Cancer Interviews. We want to remind you, as we do at the end of each episode, that as you go through a cancer journey, or if you know someone who is, you are not alone. There are people out there just like Allison who have plenty of advice and a bit of storytelling that can be informational and inspirational to help you along your way. So until next time, we'll see you on down the road.
Thanks for joining us today. For more information, please visit us online at cancerinterviews.com. We appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you back here again next time on the Cancer Interviews Podcast.